Still doing the wood choppy thing. There's a dead skunk in the woods over here. It is not tremendous. Dude, I'm downwind from a dead skunk. Not great. And it's a dead skunk that my dog's been playing with, so my dog smells horrendous as well, which is awesome. So, that's not why we're here. Jay Johns. The Jay Johns. Mr. Questions Extraordinaire. What equipment to have in a BOV, bug out vehicle? I've touched on this in a few different videos, but I don't think I've ever done a clear, concise thought piece on this. So that's what we'll do while I take a quick break from literally swinging my axe. So when I tell y'all, go swing your axe, I mean it. Like, go split firewood, go chop down trees, go do the hard things. Strong people are harder to kill, and as PJ says, generally more useful. So, yeah, it's good for you. What should be in a bug out vehicle? Line gear, lines 1 and 2 for sure. Or at least I'll tell you what I keep in mind when I'm going, man. Like anywhere closer than literally the nearest town, or I'm sorry, anywhere farther away than literally the nearest town. This is what I put in there: line gear, at least line 1, which is for me. And I tend to be wearing a pretty robust line 1 as well. We did a gear check down in Florida. It was fun, talking about what everybody had in their pockets, and I think I had more gear than anybody, just cause. But my line 1 is, you know, pistol and at least 1 reload. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 reloads. And well, I'll just tell you what's on my war belt. Okay, so it's a pistol, 2 reloads, 2 rifle reloads, a blowout kit, IFAK, canteen, fixed blade knife, and utility pouch with fire, compass, emergency shelter, chapstick, naturally, earplugs, AR front sight tool, because I just keep it in that pouch, a couple other odds and ends, a small sharpening stone, and a radio, which on that setup is a Baofeng UV5R that Gordon from the APN program for me, with a push-to-talk mic on an H harness. So that's my line 1, right? I can throw that over my shoulders, and man. Oh, and I think I have, I have water treatment tabs in there as well to go with the canteen, and some instant coffee. So, and there's water in the canteen. Why does nobody carry water in their stuff, right? So that's line 1. Then line 2 is my chest rig. You guys know about my chest rig. It's like 6 mags, 3 liters of water, compass, maps, the whole 9. Sustainment pouch with calories and cordage and the whole 9. I have a video on YouTube on what I run on my chest rig, or my plate carrier, but I haven't been using my plate carriers much lately. And my plate carrier has a day pack on it that has, my plate carrier is a self-contained system that has all of my 10 C's, which is cutting tool, combustion, container, cordage, cover, combat, calories, compass, candle, which is a light, casualty care, and then the last C is conditioning, go ruck and go split wood by hand. So at least line 1, sometimes line 2, depending on what I'm doing, and then my ruck, right? And my ruck is, some people have bobs, some people have inch bags, some people have their get home bags. I just have my ruck. I'm not big on the nomenclature. It's my ruck. I could live out of the thing indefinitely if I needed to. I don't want to, but I could. You know, it's got shelter in there, it's got more water, calories, purification, more maps, you know, more of everything, redundancy, right? Increased capabilities. I carry a level 2 trauma kit in whatever vehicle I'm in. It's a good kit. I add to it because it does not come with enough gauze or blood stopping capability, in my opinion, because the 3 things that I see people using the most of all the time are tape, gauze, gloves. Just over and over and over again. If you had a bucket full of tape, a bucket full of gauze, and a bucket full of gloves, you'd be well on your way to being prepared for medical emergencies for SHTF and a way to disinfect. Like, those 4 things, medically speaking, handle a lot of the problems that you or I will encounter. And so I add even more tape, gloves, and gauze to that kit, as well as a tourniquet and Israeli wound dressing. A couple other odds and ends as well, some quick clot and a few other things. But I carry a lot of medical with me wherever I go. I have rolled up on accident scenes that I was the first responder, and that's part of how I conduct myself in my life. Is I'm the first responder. I just am. I will always be wherever I am faster than anybody else, right? It's just it's physics, man. I'm already there. I ought to be able to affect positive change on the situation myself because I'm already here. So I'm the first responder. So I carry medical. Water. Everywhere I go, I have water with me. I don't feel right if there's not water right by me. I mean, here's a water. Here's another water right here. Chemtrails. I can't believe you drink bottled water. Yeah, I know. I'll die. We're all gonna die anyway, right? So water, again, your line gear, having water carrying capacity and having water are 2 different things. So have water. And usually I'll rock like a case of bottled water or a couple of gallons of water in whatever vehicle I'm in. The bottled water is better to hand out to people. The gallon water is better to refill your containers. So choose accordingly. Doesn't really matter. I mean, you could empty, 8 bottles of water into a gallon container to fill your stuff back up, but now you got 8 empty bottles to deal with. Spare fuel, depending on who you are and what you're doing and where you're going, fuel's awesome. One of the brothers that responded to the Florida mission had a chipped 1-ton diesel truck with a 40-gallon main tank and a 110-gallon auxiliary tank, and his range was like 3,500 miles. He could go wherever he wanted to go. He could get from wherever he was to anywhere else in North America without having to stop for fuel. I think that's awesome. I just think that's absolutely awesome. And so that actually got me thinking in that direction because, I don't have a pickup truck currently. I'm kind of on the market for one, but, buying a pickup truck requires pickup truck money, and we're not there yet. So, and that's okay. I'm not losing sleep over it. But it's got me thinking that when I do pull the trigger on a pickup truck, I would like it to be something like that to have that kind of range. Otherwise, you're looking at 5-gallon cans. Now, the last pickup I had, I kept 4 5-gallon cans in the bed of, and it had a 20-gallon tank, and I tried to never let it get below a half and generally kept it above 3/4 tank, fuel tank. So my range in that vehicle, and it was, just a little 5.4 gas motor that didn't get great gas mileage or do anything well, truthfully. It didn't tow well, it didn't get good gas mileage, it didn't haul well, it didn't do much of anything well. And it was a beast to work on. But, I think it got 14 miles to the gallon, something like that. So, do the math. What does that work out to? About a 500-mile range if everything's full. So, anyway, I tend to carry spare fuel with me. My wife has not figured out this fuel thing, and maybe it's because I've spoiled her, because every time I get in her vehicle I put fuel in it, every time, because it's always like, bing, 28 miles to empty. I'm like, babe, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? Put fuel in your vehicle. Have fuel in your vehicle. And so every time I get in her car, I'm putting fuel in it. Every time. In fact, I just moved it yesterday and it was like 62 miles to empty. Guess what I'll be doing today? I'll be putting fuel in that car today. Yeah, I've spoiled her, I guess. When we talk, I'm like, honey, come on, you can't do this. She's like, I know, I was with the baby and it's tough. I'm like, you're right, I get it. So, but still, if you're out, like if you're at the gas station anyway, don't put $5 in, put 35 bucks in, fill the sucker. Like, just fill it up. So, have fuel in your vehicles, an extra carrying capacity if you can. Tools, at least the minimum tools required to change a tire. A lot of new vehicles are not coming with jacks, and a lot of the tire irons that come in these new vehicles don't fit the wheel lugs, don't fit the lug nuts rather. You should check that, because this is something I've heard a dozen times probably in the last year. So, you know, in the mouths of 2 or 3 is a thing established. Well, a dozen times, you should check that. You should have a vehicle jack in your vehicle and a lug wrench that fits your wheel lugs, the lug nuts rather. And you should know how to change a tire. It's kind of like a rite of passage. If you don't know how to change a tire, learn how to change the tire. So at the bare minimum, you should have that. I also like having chains, like tow chains or a tow strap, or even rope, stout rope, like rope that's actually rated for, you know, has a weight rating on it, in vehicles. Now, I do a lot of stuff with rigging. I've done a lot of stuff with rigging for the last couple of decades or so, so rope doesn't bother me for towing and lifting and pulling. But if you don't know anything about rope, it's probably not the thing for you. I would get a tow strap, either one with an eye on the end, which is what most people would call a loop, or with a hook on the end, or one of both, or whatever. You know, and along with that, you should have a spare tire. If you have a tire and jack, or you have the jack and the lug wrench, but you don't have a spare tire, or if you have new wheels and tires on your truck, but the spare is a different size wheel and tire, that's a problem. You should fix that. So yeah, and you know who you are, and I'm pretty sure you fixed that, so that's good. You should fix that, check that as well. Ropes and chains we talked about. Chains, be careful with chains. Just be careful with rigging in general. A tow strap is probably your best bet if you're not the rigging extraordinaire. I carry lots of chargers in my vehicles, but a lot of what I do is battery intensive, the talking to the sideways iPhone thing. Chargers for two-way radios, 12-volt chargers for those, as well as two-way radios. Now, again, on my line gear, I have a radio, but, you know, have a spare for your spare for your spare. So, typically in my vehicle, I have commo as well. Typically, not always, but typically. And that's why I like my Line 1 gear. Wherever I go, it's got a little bit of everything, right? I've got fire, I've got a compass, I've got some cover, I've got some reloads, I've got some first aid, I've got commo, I've got a cutting tool, I've got, you know, I've got my pistol, I've got all the things, right? Just right there. I can grab that thing and go. And so I would really encourage you to get a good Line 1, like ready to go. You grab your Line 1 and it's almost like Minuteman gear, right? In fact, it is a part of Minuteman gear. You grab your Line 1, you're good to go. Like, indefinitely, no, but it's a great starter place. And then navigation. I do a lot of driving, not quite as much as I used to, but you know, I still move around the country quite a bit, and I've been saying over and over, in 2019 I'm going to do a better job of showing you guys more of what happens on this side of the iPhone, from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint, from, you know, just all the things. And part of that is, you know, we were just in Florida. We're going back to Florida. I've had people here from Indiana recently. I've had people here from Ohio recently. I've had people here from New Jersey, 2 different people from New Jersey recently. I have people coming out from California. I've had 2 different families from Texas, different parts of Texas have been here. I am going to St. Louis in the near future. We have a brother coming from Australia in the near future. I have people coming from Minnesota that I have to meet with. And so, like, there's a lot of moving about the country and the world that goes on relative, believe it or not, to this. And I think part of the reason that it just offends me so deeply when the morons on YouTube think that the only thing I do is YouTube is just, you know how easy my life would be? And it's, you know, I don't begrudge the talking at the sideways iPhone thing at all, and I never want to resent it because it's a blessing, and I always intend to treat it as a blessing. But I truly love Patreon far, far more than YouTube, because at least here, that $1 cover charge, plus, depending on who you are, that $1 cover charge really weeds out the riffraff. And just the concept that, you know, the only thing I do is talk at a sideways iPhone is, man, it's an egregious error. So part of that is traveling, and part of traveling is navigation, not just having a navi system, you know, navigation, but also know where you're going, have maps, right? Have your compass, know how to use your compass, even if it's roughly. I mean, there's places that I go fairly regularly that I can get back and forth to without any navigation whatsoever, right? I don't need navigation to go see any of my brethren in northwest Arkansas or northeastern Oklahoma. I don't need navigation to get from here to my old stomping grounds in Texas or southeastern Oklahoma where I have family. I can get there no problem. But what I do have are detailed maps from me to all of those places that I carry on my person, that if the vehicle breaks down, and this is important because we've talked about this many a time, but if the vehicle breaks down, all systems degrade into a man-portable system. So you are the ultimate bug-out vehicle. The best bug-out vehicle is a good pair of hiking boots. And there's actually a different video that I talk about that in. I may or may not have posted yet. But ultimately, everything degrades into a man-portable system, which is why it's good to have your line gear and your ruck with you, because you're gonna have, you know, the bare minimum of what you need to get by to walk from where you are to where you need to be. And part of that is navigation, and part of that navigation is dummy-proof, old-world analog maps and compass. Get from where I am to where I need to be, and also being aware of where am I. I've gotten lost a few times in this neck of the woods. Not so lost, you know, I wasn't hopelessly lost, but I definitely scratched my head a few times going, where the hell am I? Because there's not a lot of cell service around here. And so if you're navigating on your cell phone, that goes away, right? And then you kind of have to backtrack to, you know, from where I am to where I was, and then find where I was on a map, and now I am there again. And now if I know where I am on a map, I can orient and figure out where I'm going next. So that's what I carry in a bug-out vehicle at a bare minimum. Food, I also tend to have snacks along because I'm a bear-sized man and I do a decent amount of traveling with children. And sometimes when the children start getting all blah, 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 blah cranky, you just throw food at them and then they nom nom and they fall asleep. Like, bing, parenting win. So snacks are good as well. You know, try and do the snacks without sugar and the red 40 and all of that. Like, just, that stuff's not great. But high caloric density, you know, peanuts, maybe a little bit of trail mix, granola. I know I don't look like a granola eating hippie, but you know, granola, raisins are good. Cliff bars, protein bars, things of that nature that will feed the machine and are also highly portable and don't really spoil that bad. So if you had to take them out of your vehicle and chuck them into your ruck, you could do that without worrying about, well, this stuff only has a shelf life of 12 hours because it's, you know, whatever. So yeah, man, thank you, Jay Johns. That's what I keep in a bug-out vehicle. And really, if I could only have a few things in there, I'd have my line gear, my ruck, and probably some spare fuel. And then from there, we'd figure everything else out. But as part of that line gear, and I can't overemphasize this enough, in my Line 1 gear, I have maps and a compass. And I really think that you should have that and know how to use it. And not know how to use it because you watched the YouTube video on it. Know how to use it because you've gone to an orienteering course, if you've passed basic land nav, or you're into geocaching, or whatever. But know how to use it. Because ultimately, again, this all becomes a man-portable system. If you can't ruck it, it doesn't exist, okay? So, think in that direction. There's nice to have, need to have, okay? You need to have, I think, the Line 1, your ruck, some medical, and some fuel. And ideally you have medical on your Line 1 and in your ruck. And everything else is a nice to have. But definitely as part of that need to have is navigation. So that's my thoughts. Do the commenty thing down below and let me know what y'all think. Shalom. I hit the wrong button because I'm great at this. I think I just took a... Is there a way to take a picture of yourself while you're shooting a video? Yeah, just did it 3 more times. Cool. Fabulous. Tremendous.